are back with the Oneil Effect. My name is Philip Reed, and I am the producer of Phoenix National Business Group Productions. And today we have our second episode of the Oneil Effect, which we've changed the time. We're going to be on at least twice a month now. And so you can expect to see and hear this encouraging stories of how people have overcome their obstacles in life. We're doing this to encourage you to know that there is an end game for your story. And whatever you're going through right now is just a valley experience, and you're going to get through it. So we just wanted to keep you in tune with what's going on with the Oneil Effect. Also, Bishop is going to talk to you more about his book that is coming up, Stop the Procession, which is available on Phoenix National Business Group.com. So you can go there and find out more information about his book. Now, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our host for today, Bishop Oneil Williams.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. Welcome everyone to the Oneil Effect. I'm so blessed to be back with you on another Saturday morning to be able to give you some encouraging words. So welcome to the Oneil Effect. As Dr. Phil says, my name is Bishop Oneil Williams. I will be your host this morning. I'd like to start this morning with a positive quote from my book. This moment of your life is necessary, but not permanent. David was comfortable, I believed, being a shepherd. He had never asked to be promoted, but promotion found him. But what else found him was trouble and despair. He found himself running from the very kingdom he was anointed to rule. However, his situation was necessary but not permanent. His struggle taught him how to be strong, how to be a strong king, and how to handle adversity. His struggle also taught him how to be a man. Where you are may not be where you want to be. But who tells you that is not exactly where you're supposed to be? You are being prepared to take on bigger challenges. And if you have no experience to fall back on, how will you get over what you'll be facing? Sometimes you must face challenges privately so you can be prepared to fight battles publicly. That's a quote from my book. Hopefully that it encourages somebody this morning as we go into this program. This program is to empower and encourage you to win in life. Overcoming adversity, no matter what life brings you, understand this. You are the hero of your movie. See, God has not forgotten you. He just has a surprise ending that will shock the doubters. That's beautiful, man. Don't forget, though, that this show is piggybacking off of the book, Stop the Procession. It's your time to win. And so please go out and get the pre-sale. Buy this book in this pre-sale because it's a special price of $15. And the offer ends soon. And those of you, since we last met last month on this program, we have purchased books. I want to say thank you. Just last week, I had one person purchase 7. And so I want to thank you for your support, but we still are far off from our goal. And if every one of you who joined this program today go out and get one book, we will reach our goal by November. So please go out and get this book. Stop the Procession. It's your time to win. You're going to see some of the points that have been mentioned in this book in our talk today. And hopefully it will encourage you to understand that this book is not just a book on your shelf, but it's one that will motivate you. So I'm excited because today we have a special guest on our program. We have Pastor Matthew McKee. And so welcome, Pastor Matthew. Great to have you on this program, sir. How are you feeling this morning?
God bless you, Bishop. It is a pleasure, a privilege to be on the show. And I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Awesome.
God has
Awesome.
been faithful.
Awesome. So, Pastor, I am so glad that you're able to join us today, and we're going to have some deep conversations. The conversation we're going to have are going to be very touchy subjects that a lot of people try to avoid. But because we're big men, we're going to make sure that we're going to touch those subjects and let people accept what they want and reject what they want. How does that go?
Sounds
All right.
great.
So,
Indeed.
for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I'm an assistant pastor, pastoring right out of Brooklyn here, and the church's name is Holy Love Outreach Ministries. I've been pastoring now since the age of 23. I'm now 38, so that makes it 15 years and counting. The Lord has allowed me to be privileged to serve in the kingdom for that amount of time. Obviously, grew up in the church. My father was a pastor. My mother was an evangelist at the very same church that I serve as an assistant pastor now. So I'm a PK. I'm a PK, come from a family of, ministers and pastors. Even my uncles, both on my father and my mother's side, were pastors. But the type of person that I am, I'm a very driven person. I'm a very unique person in that I'm different in just my approach to things. I think also based on what I've been through, what I've faced in my process, it's just made me a tad bit unique than probably most others. But I grew up in the church playing the drum. That was my first place, my first passion. And little did I know that the Lord actually called me to pastor and to preach the gospel. At the time, I was just content playing the drum, and I was fine. But I also am a surgical tech, certified surgical tech. I work at New York Presbyterian Hospital. So it's safe to say that in both my ministry life and even in my secular career, I really work in the service of people, serving people and working with people. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome, man. You gave us a lot in a nutshell, but you said something that I know only men would say that. You told them your age. Only men would do that.
Yep, 38.
And I think it's because you look good for your age, so that's why you tell us, but it's okay.
Blessings, Bishop.
Now let me ask you a question. If you could describe yourself in 3 words, I know you gave us a lot in a nutshell right there, but if you could describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be? And if your life could be summed up in a sermon, what would that title of that sermon be?
If I was to sum up myself in 3 words, one would be passionate. I'm extremely passionate about anything that I'm invested in, anything that I am doing in terms of ministry or life goals. Very passionate towards it. So that's one word. Another word I would say is I'm very driven. Another 2, I'm driven in that very goal oriented. And I'm a person that was always trying to get better, learn more, educate myself more in different areas. So I'm very driven and self-motivated in that way. And the next thing that I would say is I'm an extremely social person. I love people. I love to meet people, and I love to work with people. And I think that's why ministry really fits me, and even what I do work-wise as a surgical technologist, it fits me because I just love working with people. If I was to sum up my life in one sermon, wow, I would say it would have to be Delayed but not denied.
Wow.
Delayed but not denied. I
Wow.
would
I
have to
like
use
that.
that cliche.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Well, I'm glad that that would be the topic of your sermon concerning your life, because today we're going to talk about adversity. Can and how to overcome adversity. And so, in with that said, we know that we are in a crucial time. People have been ushered into a season that they were never prepared for, and not even the country was prepared for that. The world wasn't prepared for this. And so a lot of people are going through different ups and downs in their lives, which the book is one of the fitting area right now to help them how to navigate that area of their lives. With that said, can you describe for us what your number one adversity was in your life that you can say you overcame, and how did you overcome it?
It was definitely the time of serving in ministry and then going through a divorce. Definitely
Wow.
that was a huge adversity that I would kind of key in on that right there. It was anyone that is very privy to just ministry and the culture of ministry, especially when you're pastoring, um, going through something like a divorce is a very difficult thing on many levels, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, and you also deal with a huge fallout socially, because as a pastor, most people off the bat would say, "How are you a pastor and you're getting a divorce or you're going through a divorce?" So it was a huge fallout in my life. It was like literally falling from grace and also falling, hitting rock bottom to the extent where um, I really started to look at how people were starting to treat me, or how people that were either still in my corner, or people that actually started to act different based on my reality. um, that was challenging because, like I said, it's the spiritual fallout. We know the spiritual trauma that it causes, the emotional and the psychological. And something ought to be said for the social impact, because you feel like it almost drives you into isolation, because you don't know necessarily who you can talk to, who to trust, who might be talking about you behind their back and then saying one thing in your face. So that was huge. How I overcame it, obviously it was a process. It was a process. It took time. But one of the things that you have to do is you have to block out the noise. You have to block out the noise, and you have to um, really center yourself and purpose yourself not to get too caught up with what's going on in the environment, especially in the social arena of the church, even as from a pastoral standpoint, because you're obviously in the church, you're serving, you're around people, and the truth of the matter is you're going to hear things no matter how hard you try to isolate yourself and to hopefully not hear. You're going to hear things, because people, one of the things I've proven, Bishop, is that people always have an opinion, even about something that they don't really know about.
Wow.
Always have an
Wow.
opinion, even on things that they don't have the education about, or the knowledge about, or the direct information. But you have to block out the noise. I think that's the first place that I had to um, find myself to overcome, Bishop Williams. I had to block out the noise and say, okay, McKee, how are you going to work on yourself in this process? How are you going to recenter yourself in your relationship with God in this process? And how are you going to also pick yourself up as a man in this process?
I'm glad that you touch on that, because I am a witness of what you have gone through. I am also divorced myself, and had to face that challenge also in the church, and not just being a pastor, but being a bishop which comes, comes with certain clout and title. And one of the things that you said that really touches me, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but you have to reach that place in your life when you realize that your life is more than just church. And what I've noticed is it is so funny because a lot of pastors slash bishops are in the same position as you and I are in that position, and they live in the cemetery while still walking in it.
Wow.
And I say this to say that because they're already divorced, but just not, the public just don't know.
Mm.
It's a mental divorce. And so people live the rest of their lives in misery because they're afraid of what the public will say about them. They're
Yeah.
afraid of what people say, and because of the cliche that we put on it and the negative connotations that we put on it, a lot of people would rather live the next 20 years of their lives in misery.
Wow.
And so what you just said is great, because we're not propagating for pastors to get divorced. We're not propagating for them to walk out of their marriage, but we're also saying that the Bible said that you must be happy and be in good health. You can't be, health doesn't mean only sickness. Health
Yeah.
is mental, health is
Yeah.
psychological, health is happiness.
Yes.
And so you have to reach a place in your life and you realize, I've tried everything. And the other thing is that you said a while ago, which is so emphatic, is that a lot of times people already made their own conclusion of your situation. So you might as well not explain it because they already have their story, whether it's correct or not. And so I like that. So since you kind of touch on that, let's talk about this controversial subject in the church that a lot of pastors run from, and that is the divorce. Let's talk about that. But not just the topic of divorce, but being a minister and a pastor who had to face this challenge. I'm going to ask you, tell us how your experience was with your peers, not just your family, but the ministry. I know you touched on it a little bit, but see if we could go into more about the peers, the associates that you were around, the pastors. How did they treat you?
I can honestly say that, and that's a very good question. I can honestly say that I had a good amount that stood with me, that understood, that were able to kind of relate or connect to my current reality at that time. But there was also, and obviously, having a good amount that stood with me, it still did not rival in quantity the amount that took their hands off of me, or the amount that said, ooh, I'm going to stay away from him, or that maybe they could not connect with me in ministry to the effect of even being blacklisted, or saying we won't invite him anymore. So you have, and I had a lot of peers that I guess they couldn't relate to a pastor that went through or is going through a divorce. And for them, it automatically meant that, oh, he's not living right, something's wrong with him. We're not going to mess with him on that level because he's obviously something's wrong, or so we're not gonna, it's almost as if I was contagious or something. So it was very disappointing. It also revealed to me, Bishop Williams,
Mm-hmm.
It revealed to me the heart of people. It revealed to me who was really, from on a heart level, who was connected to me, or who had the compassion and the passion to say, listen, you're going through a real life moment, and these things happen. Nobody gets married to get to get a divorce. You know, nobody gets married to get a divorce, but life does unfortunately happen and unfold sometimes in that way. But though it was difficult dealing with some of the peers that could not relate, could not connect, and made their own judgment calls without knowing really the details, I thank God for those that stood with me and that were encouragers. And thank God I had enough of those that I was able to process and persevere.
Wow, man, thank you for that. And you know, one of the person that wrote three-quarter of the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, a lot of people have never delved into his life story. They just know his conversion story,
Yeah,
but nobody knows his living story. That the Apostle Paul dealt more with a lot of unmarried and widow because he himself had to experience the same thing.
yeah,
And a lot of people don't know that. And so what people have done is that they become judgmental before they accept or see what God is doing in your life.
yes,
Now, and I like that you touch on that because I kind of had the same experience that you've had where people already make judgmental call, and so you're blacklisted, and you lost all the opportunities that you had because of the position that you found yourself in.
hmm,
Now, in my book, I deal with the topic of divorce is not final. That's one of the topics I dealt with in my book. Divorce is not final. Now, I'm going to ask you, how did you bounce back? And what would you say to someone, maybe a pastor who might be facing this challenge, or just a regular member, or just a regular person out there? It doesn't have to be Christian. How did you bounce back? And how can you help somebody to let them know that divorce is not final?
yes. And I love that quote from your book. I think that that's such a profound and a powerful quote. And I think that everyone that has ever gone through the fallout of divorce needs to understand and needs that quote and needs to understand it in all of its magnitude, because um, I often use the quote myself that there is life after divorce. And right away, when you're dealing with the fallout from a divorce, it might not feel like it. It might not feel like there's life after divorce, and it might feel like there's finality to the fallout of going through a divorce, especially when you factor in all your investment, you know, your time investment, your energy investment, and focus there, and also your emotional, obviously your emotional investment, not to mention financial and other areas. Um, and sometimes what you have built, especially if you have kids involved, it causes a greater level of kind of fallout. But um, what I would say to someone that's going through a divorce is that, number one, in starting with where you powerfully mentioned and stated in your book, it's not final. It's not final. There is a scheduled bounce back after divorce if you allow yourself to do so. You have to, number one, you have to get out of the possibility of beating yourself up, because after a divorce, one of the things that can easily happen is that you can start internalizing to a toxic and a negative level. You start internalizing and you start to beat yourself up like something's wrong with you, or what's the matter with me, and you start to beat yourself up on that level. And if you beat yourself up based on the fallout of a divorce, it's going to be hard for you to even see your own value going forward. And I think one of the first things you have to do is remember, okay, sometimes two people, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. And those reasons can vary, but two people, it just might not work out for whatever reason. And now we know that there's a plethora of reasons why that might be. However, you have to see the value in yourself that will
I like
allow
that.
you, yeah, to pick yourself up to say, you know what? I still have purpose. I still have to, I still have a life to live. I still have some goals that I have to reach and that I want to reach. And so it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You have to really block out the noise. A lot of noise comes after something like a divorce. Internal noise, family noise, because you're dealing with your family and maybe the other person's family. So you're dealing with in-laws. Then you have in ministry as a pastor, then you have that social noise that comes from the church circle. And people that might have looked up to you and had certain expectations about you, and they probably put you on a pedestal of being like a superhero, that you don't have, you won't have real issues, or nothing bad can happen to you. They might start to question your integrity. They might start to question who you are, even in ministry, who you are as a person. And your peers, we just talked about, there's going to be a fallout with perceived peers, people that you thought were actually your friends. You're going to find out in that season, you'll find out who your friends are for real,
Wow.
who really was with you for real. So these are some things you face, but you have to block out the noise. You have to realize your own value. You also have to get to a point of self-analysis, healthy self-analysis that will, the Bible says, let a man examine himself. So you
Absolutely.
got to get to that point of healthy self-analysis to say, okay, what was there probably present in me? Because I always tell people, we cannot get to arrive at the point of thinking that a divorce is always about the other person's issues or problems. You have to sometimes look at yourself and say, what did I contribute myself to this divorce? And that's
Wow.
what I had to do.
Wow, I like that. Dealing with this whole topic, as I said, it's a very controversial topic, and a lot of churches, a lot of people runs from it, and we consider this adversity. And here's why I consider this an adversity in a lot of people's life, because adversity are setbacks. A lot of times people bury themselves in regrets. Quoting from what I wrote in my book, people bury themselves in regrets, self-pity, even blaming themselves for how their marriage ends up, which I'm guilty of that process. But one of the things that we need to, the problem with that is that many people stays in an abusive marriage, whether the abuse is verbal or physical, because we're afraid of the external noise.
Yes.
However, living through that dilemma, you have to learn to understand that there comes a time when number one got to step out, and that you can rise again and you can live again. And so
Yes.
in my book, The Procession Stops Here, you've got to come to a place where it says, a part of the book that says procession stops here, you got to come to a place in your life where you say, this stops here. It's time to turn this procession around. The other reason why this topic is essential is because most people found themselves moving away from their happy place. They're moving away from their excited place because they're now settling. No one on the day when you got married decided you were going to settle. You decided you were going to progress.
Yeah.
And when you find yourself becoming settled and regressing, then it simply means it's time to work on you. If you can't work on, it's time to make decisions.
Yes.
And most time people think that divorce happens overnight. No, it doesn't. It grows
Yeah.
into it, and there are different reasons for that. So somebody watching us right now may be thinking, man, you guys are talking to me. I'm in this situation right now where I don't know what to do. And again, let me reiterate, we're not propagating that you walk away. We're not propagating that you don't get help. We're saying that if you reach that point where you're broken and has broken you, and there is nowhere else to go, and you have to end up in that place, divorce place, never kill yourself. Never think that it's over. The journey doesn't stop there.
That's right.
You start life again. Now, as I touch on that, right now, there's someone out there watching this program, maybe right now, maybe later on, and wondered, how can I overcome my adversity? How do I come back from a setback? Doesn't have to be a divorce, but how do I come back from a setback? Name 3 things you would use to encourage them based on your personal experience that they can use to come back. But before you talk about, I'm going to talk, you can piggyback off of these 3 things I'm going to mention from the book, and then you can use that as your piggyback. So in the book, I talk about journeying back because, see, as I said, adversity is setbacks. And people may not understand this, but divorce is a setback. Because here is the thing, you have spent 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and now you're about to start again. So it is a setback. And so 3 of the things that I dealt with in The Divorce Is Not Final in Journeying Back is that if the challenges hit you hard enough, it can be difficult to get yourself back on track, to continue making progress towards your goals.
Mm-hmm.
But obstacles to your success don't have to signal the end of your journey. You just have to know how to recover from a fall, so you're able to keep on going. That's Brian McNeil who says that. So number 1, I'm going to touch on these 3 things, and you're going to piggyback off of them for me. Number 1, I would say to somebody, innovate yourself second time around, because sometimes we become so dependent that we don't know how to get up. Because the individual, whether it's the man or the woman, is always picking you up. And this doesn't have, when we're talking about this, we're not talking about one set of spouse. So we're saying to anyone, innovate yourself. And number 2, keep on moving. Don't stop. The worst thing you can do is come out of a situation like that and then you stop living. And then number 3, I said in the book, manage your blind spot. You see, because on the journey back to success, if you can't see how you're going to get there, your blind spot is growing on you. Some people go back to school. Some people get a better job. Some people get remarried and took their mistakes and learned from it to build a better marital life. So if you were to use 3 things, if you want to piggyback on what I just told you, or you want to use your own 3 experiences, what are the 3 things you'd say to somebody right now who are facing adversity in their lives, whether it's a divorce, whether it's a lost job, whether it's a death in the family? What are the 3 things you'd use right now to help that person?
First of all, I love those 3 points that you extracted from your book. I love it. I'm telling you, I think the book, based on everything I've been hearing, it's rich, and I'm about to make sure I order a few myself. I have to do it, and I believe that I have some people too that I know personally that book would be a blessing to as well. But I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to piggyback, and I'm going to give a little bit of just a different one. But I love the fact that you said becoming innovative with yourself. And I would also adjoin to that, knowing who you are is critical. Knowing who you are independent of the other person. I think what happens is that sometimes we become so dependent, even in the constructs of marriage, that God forbid, if something does go wrong and that marriage doesn't work out and it ends up in a divorce, the person has lost themselves in that relationship, so much so that if the person leaves them, they're literally left with nothing, because they lost functionality as an individual. So a person that's recovering from a setback, one of the major things in order to recover from a setback is you have to have an idea, a ground, a foundation of knowing who you are, so that it makes the journey back, as you just mentioned so eloquently, it makes the journey back a more definitive one, where you can start to really pinpoint things, areas of definition, what you can start to do, what you can plan to do. I heard you talking about planning, and whether it's to go back to school, knowing who you are, knowing your passions, knowing your gifts, your skill sets. It kind of hones you in to what you might need to now indulge in to work on yourself or to enhance certain things concerning your goals. And whenever you don't have goals, when you're not goal oriented, it makes setbacks even harder to actually get up from, because setbacks are part of life. They are a part of life, a natural part of life. And I truly believe that God, if we even look at it scripturally, God uses setbacks as a stage to perform the miraculous. The Bible says his strength is made perfect in our weakness.
I like that.
Yeah, so we literally have a God that responds to our weaknesses, aka our setbacks. He's already postured to respond and to show himself. So we see a side of God where we lack, he becomes provider. When we're sick, he becomes the healer. You know, so he is pre-postured to be what we need him to be. So as you said, having an innovative mindset. Also, understanding that your comeback is going to be, it's going to have to go through the opinions of people, whether people around you, and even the opinion of you concerning you. We already know we have the devil that's already postured. His purpose is to demoralize us, is to distract us, is to discourage us. So the devil already is going to do his job. We can't help him by developing a negative and a toxic opinion concerning our setback, because sometimes setbacks start to play upon our psyche, and then we start to talk ourselves down and disqualify ourselves from the blessings that God still has in store for us. So that's another thing, being free from the opinions of the enemy, of negative opinion of ourselves and opinions of people, and having a focus towards the goal of saying, all right, this didn't work out, or this happened, but I'm going to get back up and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to focus and I'm going to get in line, and I'm going to make sure that I learn from this. So I think the next thing I would say is extracting the lesson out of the worst possible thing. Extracting the lesson out of a negative experience is key as well. There's a lesson in everything. There really is. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it, but there is. There's always a lesson to extract out of everything.
Oh man, you are so profound. You're so profound. I appreciate that. And I know a lot of people are watching us right now live, and a lot of people are watching us on different shows right now, different medium, I should say, right now. And they're probably just analyzing and listening to us and so forth. And I appreciate that. And maybe somebody's going through something right now. And as I said when I started this program, that this show, adversity that we're dealing with, everything on the Oneil effects piggybacks are off the book and that I've written. And I want to quote something from the book that I wrote. It says, for despite being into your third marriage, arguments tend to start around the same issues. Burnout happens, setback happens. And so unlike the permanent blind spot in your eyes, blind spots in your life are malleable to resolve. So how to find your blind spot? Your growing deeper awareness of them only spawn greater self-mastery to transform those blind spots into new strengths. As you continue to grow, you'll uncover new blind spots with more progress at discovering them and transforming them into superpower. That means the essence of this is not to allow life to surprise you again with things that was already there, but you missed it because it was in your blind spot, like a car that has a signal to indicate when another car is in their blind spot to help prevent it from changing lane into an oncoming traffic, which caused accident. That signal was not there 10 years ago. Cars innovate so that they can create less accidents. Yes. And so when you come out of a situation, adversity, innovate yourself so that you can create less accidents going forward.
Yes.
And I think that's what individuals need to do as they move forward in their lives and so forth. And the last thing we're going to touch, and then we're going to end this program, is make changes. And in the book, I said that changes and innovation are not the same. Innovation means creating something that no one else had thought of. That's innovation. But change is when you look at what is already present and decided you're going to approach it from a different perspective. So when you find yourself in adversity and a different situation, whether it's a divorce, a death, or so forth, look at how you treat the downtime in your life and decided, I'm going to change that. Pastor McKee, it was a great talking to you, man. What I would like for you to do right now, there's a brother out there right now, there's a sister out there, somebody out there who's listening and said, guys, you don't know, you're touching my life. And there's somebody out there who is so spiritual, they can't understand why we're talking about this subject. We love you too. But what I want you to do is, because you see, we have experienced these things. And before I wrap this up, let me just throw my personal experience for just a minute in there. Is that when I being a pastor, you said something about going back to school, and I touched on the topic, innovate yourself. And the thing about it is that I remembered when I had my own adversity and I walked into, and I had to walk away. And not only did I have to walk away from the marriage, but walk away from the church. And all I knew at the time was pastoring. I was a full-time pastor. That was my income. That was my job. And so when you have to walk away because you want to protect the integrity of the ministry, and you have to walk away, and you wonder what's going to happen to you now, you've got nothing to fall back on. And so I had to go through 6 years of schooling to get my master's in business, because I did not want to be stuck being theological anymore, because I want to be able to be marketable. And so I want people watching us to understand that nothing is wrong with if you have to, in the middle of your life, change your career. Nothing is wrong with that. You have to be marketable, and that's what innovation is all about. That's what making change is all about. So there's somebody watching us, Pastor McKee, and they're saying, talk to me for a minute. Take 60 seconds and encourage somebody right now who woke up this morning feeling down because maybe they're facing what we have already gone through. And the crisis is never over. No matter if we overcome, sometimes we have flashbacks. And sometimes those flashbacks seem like they want to hinder our present situation. Talk to somebody right now who's going through something and they need an encouraging word from the desk of Pastor McKee. What would you say to that person right now?
Oh, I would say, Bishop, I would say to them, the problem does not negate the purpose. The problem does not negate the purpose. Sometimes we become disconnected from our ordained divine purpose in God because of problems and situations that present itself and that come about in the natural flow of life. Life comes with challenges. It comes with some random turns, some random pivots. The truth of the matter is we do not control everything that manifests or plays out in our life. Some things we control and some things we don't control. But the problem never negates the purpose of God. And the problem definitely never negates the power of God. And so it's so important that we understand that in process, and life is a process, life is a journey. In life, there is something called process, and that process does not always entail great experiences. Doesn't always entail things that's going to make you feel good. Sometimes that process comes with some painful lessons, some setbacks, some pitfalls, and some things that we maybe bad decisions that we decided that backfired, and other things that the enemy might just have used it as a point of attack. And then there are other things that God just allows us to go through as a teaching tool to mature us. But there's purpose on your life. My encouragement to you is there's purpose on your life. Don't give up. Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. Understand that process helps you to get to places of maturity, places of innovation, places of creativity. Problems all help you to tap into a greater dimension of what you didn't know you had in the first place. And sometimes it is right there in the middle of the storm that you realize you're stronger than you thought you were, you're wiser than you thought you were, and that there was more to you, more in you than you thought was in you, because you might have settled in that level of success that you thought you had, but God had greater for you. So just like David with Ziklag, sometimes God will cause an attack to come to your territory just to get you to dig deeper and encourage yourself in the Lord. And the Bible says, and David recovered all. David recovered all.
Wow,
So
I
just like
love
that.
that. I love that. I love
Bless you,
that.
Bishop.
Pastor McKee, I want to thank you, man, for that encouraging word to those who are watching us right now and are going through some adversity. If and for those of you who are watching as we bring this to a close, we're not just referring to we kind of kind of go into the whole aspect of divorce, because both of us have experienced it and we want to help somebody who's been there. But I want to understand that there are help that you can seek if you're not there yet, but you're in a crisis with your marriage. You can seek counseling, you can seek help. You don't have to get to that point. But if you are already at that point, you've seen no way out, and that's your end result. Just understand that there is life after that. Understand that you're not over and your life is not over. And don't get bitter, get better. That's what you have to do, because listen, let's be real, man. Your spouse is watching you. They want to see the dumb mistakes you're going to make after and say, see, I told you. So what you've got to do is not just think for yourself, but you got to think for the people who wants to see you fail and decided, I'm not going down that road. While you are living for you, also live with the blind spots. See them. You know, you're in the car, but there are blind spots outside the car. So see them before you run into them. And so it is a pleasure talking to you this morning. And thanks for sharing those deep areas of your life to us and allowing us to know that there is better coming. Well, as Brother Phil said to us this morning, the introduction, that this show is going to be twice a month. We want you to be prepared for that. We will be back. He's going to give you hopefully some times and some dates when we'll be back. But remember, go to the Oneil Effect on Facebook to order your copy of Stop the Procession. You have heard me quote a lot of effective quotes from this book. I'm telling you, you are going to be motivated. You're going to be blessed and encouraged to move on if you're in a place. And not only that, you may be in a good marriage, you may be in a good life. You may not have no experience of any adversity, no death, no setbacks, no procession. But what about your friend? What about your family? What about somebody at your job? What about somebody you know? This is a good book for you to get for them. Remember, this book is not a dark spot. It's not something you read and sends you into depression. This book actually takes you out of it. And so that's why it's important for you to get it. It's your time to win. That's why we have that spin of it. It's your time to win. And we're going to talk about how you can win, how you can journey back to success, how you can come back home. Let me tell you, I'm not there yet, but I refuse. If I'm going to lose, I will lose trying to win. But I say to somebody today, don't lose not trying. And I promise if you try, you'll win. So this is your time to win. So get this book. The price is only $15 for limited time. We have a goal in mind, and we're not close to it yet. And many of you watch this show, watch my shows, and you have not purchased your book yet. Please go get the book. Go to the Oneil Effect and get the book. If you are having problem ordering the book, message me. We can help you out. You can also go to phoenixnationalbusinessgroup.com to order the book as well. phoenixnationalbusinessgroup.com. You can go there and order the book as well. Maybe I said it too fast. Let me say it again. It's PHOENIX and then a capital N, which spell the national, the capital B, which spell the business, capital G, which spell, if I'm not correct, then my host will correct me. But it's phoenixnationalbusinessgroup.com to order the book as well. Then you enter the code PNBG for a special price. Help us to reach our goal of 1,000 copies by November 1st, so that we can send your signed copy in the mail. See you next time. Remember, it is your time to win. Have a blessed day. Back to the host.
All right. Wonderful. What a wonderful program. Thank you guys so much. And just as Bishop said, yes, we will be here twice a month now. So we're going to be here first and third Saturdays for you at 8 a.m. And so you can put your comments in, email us any questions you might have, any comments you might have. And our email is pnbg@philipreed.org. All right. And so we look forward to seeing you